Hi everyone, my name is Berk Dulger from Istanbul, Turkey. And first of all, I want to thank you for inviting me here. It's my first time in Lithuania Vilnius. It seems a quite nice city, and thanks again. This is my family. I'm married with a son, 1.5 year old, a crazy kid. I'm working, as I said, head of consultancy in a private company in Istanbul, Turkey. It's about 100 people working there. We are giving consultancy services, outsourced teams, trainings to our customers. The company named Keytalk, and during the presentation, I'm going to try to give some case studies, examples from our company. So let's start with the change. Yeah. There's nothing permanent except change, as a Greek philosopher said before Chris. It's something too old, but we experience every day. There's a theory called chaos theory, right? It's also named the butterfly effect in popular culture. It means that it's not very easy to predict the future in any equation because it depends on the initial conditions, and even the smallest variations can cause big differences in the results. So we are very good. We are not very good at predicting the results of any equation, action, or any behavior. So, how many of yours have Bitcoin? How many of yours bought it before a year ago? 2 years ago? 3 years ago? Okay, there is no one rich here. If we could predict the future, we would all be rich, right? It reached even the 17,000 US dollars. And it just by itself shows we are not good at that, predicting the future. And also there is another example. It's a French artwork depicting the future in 2000s, which had been done in 1899. There is a point, right? But not exactly that we lived in 2000s. We can't exactly predict what's gonna happen, but we might forecast a little bit. There's a guy named Neil deGrasse Tyson, right? Who knows Neil deGrasse Tyson? Okay, cool. I'm a fan of him. Actually, I was a fan of Carl Sagan, and he is a student of Carl Sagan, and showing the documentary The Cosmos right now. In a documentary for global warming, he says, "Don't watch the dog, watch the man." It means that, for example, in weather and climate, for some days you feel hot, for some days you feel cold, and at some point you think that no, there's no global warming right now because this winter was so cold. But it's not the point. It can vary from day to day. But when you look at the climate, there's a pattern. You can predict what's going to happen in the end. Okay, in the presentation, I'm going to separate things into 3 different categories. First, going to start with people perspective, then the organizational perspective, and the last one will be the technology perspective. What about test people? So, let's first talk about past and then now. What we have learned so far in the past and what are we are speaking right now. It was bug detection in the past. We were detecting the bugs, but right now it's much more preventing the bugs, applying some standard TMMI or agile iterative development, shifting left, all the stuff. It was testing at the end, but right now it is testing throughout the cycle, throughout the iteration. It was testers' responsibility to find defects, provide a level of quality, but right now it's team's responsibility. it was relying on specification. Right now, it's more about defining the right acceptance criteria. And it was checking. Right now, it's more exploring the software. And it was about testing tester skills, become something more technical and coding skills. Okay, cool. There's a research here conducted by IS2QB this year. One of the questions was, which of the following non-testing skills are most expected from an agile tester in your organization? And surprisingly, it was soft skills. More than 54% of the respondents say. And what are those soft skills? What they might be? Let's talk about it. From my point of view, as I said, I'm going to share my insights and experiences, our insights in our company. So the first one, to be proactive rather than reactive. So taking the initiative of your life, job, anything, so you will have words on it. From testing perspective, it's not enough to, let's say, open defects and send to developers and wait them to be solved. But it is the point that you go after your defects and decide developers, prioritize them. I'm not sure how you are going to do it by buying some coffee or being nice, but there's a point you need to be proactive. Okay, in the past it was expected people to have an expertise, right? The eye-shaped people. It was from the day of manufacturing. You need an expertise to do. But after some times, maybe beginning 1990s, it's become more complicated, especially in the software. It's not enough to have an expertise in an area, and they wanted, the bosses, the companies wanted us to have some marketing skills, some sales skills, some HR skills, some negotiation skills, and T-sharp model arised. But right now, it's not even enough for a successful candidate, a tester, an IT guy, for anyone working in a private sector. It is demanded to be a P-shape. From testing perspective, it's not enough to have automation skills, but also knowing performance testing, maybe test data management or code quality analysis, something like that. Okay, the third one, we learn something best when we try to teach it. It's, again, a say from another philosopher from Roman Empire. For example, you can conduct brown bag sessions in your company, during the lunchtime, someone comes and tries to teach something about others not that aware maybe, or not that expert on the area. And from individual point, you can try to send papers to conferences, try to be accepted, so you will have a chance to present something, and it will make you gain in name of the skills and the area. Okay, being a leader than a follower. I don't mean to be a leader in general. It's not about in general stuff. Let's say from testing perspective, being a QA. QA does not stand for quality analyst or quality assurer right now anymore. It is more stands for the quality assistant. That means assisting people in name of quality in the team, helping developer to write high quality code or build software, and helping business analysts or the other stakeholders to define better acceptance criteria. It's about that. And the fifth one, thinker and do rather than thinker or do. It's very important because Word requires people both thinker and doer. There's a framework named design thinking. It makes you able to solve complex problems in a pattern. First, you start with emphasize the problem, then define the problem in details, and then you ideate, You brainstorm within the team, prototype a solution and test the solution, and you continue until you find the right solution or the optimal solution. Okay. Sixth one, being a system thinker rather than a component thinker. It's so important because it's always bigger than it seems. Let's say, who thinks that solar energy is environmental? Doesn't anyone think that? Okay, if you think that it's environmental or not, you should consider from very beginning to very end, because it seems that solar energy, the solar panels are very environmental, but what about the production phase of the solar panels? Or what about after the retirement of the solar panels, the chemicals inside, what's gonna happen, how they are going to be stored? Being UX aware, it's very important. UX stands for user expertise, user experience. And if someone, a customer, experience a satisfaction, he or she shares this with 4 or 5 people. But if someone experiences a dissatisfaction, it becomes something very dangerous. Shares more than 20 people, and with thanks to social media, it might become a real problem for your company. You need to be UX aware, by the way, for that reason. Being open to adaptation to change, it can be the key feature. It's easy to say being adapted for the change, but I can give you a tip for that. It's better to plan for near, mid, far, and farthest future, and try to make the items in the plans from tangible to intangible throughout the time, so you will not need to predict the things that's gonna happen in the future. So it might be a solution for that. And this is our headquarters office in Istanbul. What we did do so far for the name of adapting people for the future, we created team mail groups. It might be strange for all of you, but we didn't. At the past, we created for the communication between the team. We empower team members to contribute something different than their core responsibility, let's say for charity. We conducted design thinking workshops. This is the most important thing, from my point, to facilitate ideation in the company. Organized Talent 4.0 workshops. We named that Talent 4.0 to focus something different than their own responsibility. Let's say for a week, maybe for a month, we talked about the Bitcoin, and for another month, we talked about the AI applications, and encourage people to organize their own events. Yeah. Okay. As I want this would be an interactive session, I have prepared a survey for you, and there is a QR code there. If you don't have a QR scanner right now in your mobile phones, you can use the link at the left above. There are not many questions inside. Maybe just few, 5 or 6. It will not take more than 60 seconds. So it will be very valuable to get your insights. If we have enough time in the end, we can together check the results and what do you think about the people side. And there will be 3 different questionnaires during the presentation. This is the first one for the people side. Okay, wait for more few seconds before going to other chapter. Okay, let's continue from organizational perspective. You are all familiar that Agile is here, right? It's adopted in many different institutions. The adoption rate right now about 78% in the world, in the entire world. So it changed something because before the adoption of agile trends, the applications, the methodology, there were test center of excellences, right? There were test factories testing all the stuff coming from different departments and send them back to developers or the customers. But right now it is more decentralized, and there are some people even don't have tester title. They are called team members, let's say in the Scrum. Okay, from organizational perspectives, the first one is to have flat and open organizations. You know, we are all familiar with the stuff from Scrum methodology, right? There's something there called self-organizing teams, but from institutional perspective, it is called something different on the reflections. It is called flat and hierarchical organizations, and it's not just about the IT organization, but all the institution. Okay, the second one is to have an environment safe to fail. These are 10 principles of strategic leadership, and I'm going to emphasize on the third one. It is make it safe to fail. It is so important than people to try something new for create an environment for innovation. If anyone who says never change the working software, did you ever heard of it? Never change the working software. Okay. If you heard something like that, it basically means that there is no safe to fail environment there. So it's kind of something dangerous. And third one is that don't measure the people, because people are so clever. In one of our customers, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we were in the middle of a project and there were many problems, long-living defects, past deadlines, and upper management wanted to know who's responsible for unclosed defects. So they wanted a report every day that shows who has how many defects and what are the statuses. Okay, it seemed good, but after a few days, developers figured out the situation, and after leaving the job, maybe 5 or 10 minutes before, they sent all the defects back to the testers, just putting some comments. And when the job worked at the midnight, it didn't work. In the morning, the upper management came to building and said, okay, there's no defects on developers, so where's the problem? It's so hard. We learned in the hard way, but it doesn't work to measure people, but it's better, so much better to measure the process or the product. And the stress thing, I think you are all familiar with it. You need enough stress on your employees to foster the creativity. If you don't put enough stress, they will think that it's a boring job. They are not sufficiently challenged. But if you put too much stress on the people, they feel exhausted and stressed. It is a little related to previous one, the stress thing. It's created by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi in 1970s and depicts the term the zone. Some others call it the flow. It's about the challenge level and the skills. You need to bring enough challenge for sufficiently skilled people, not more than that. Okay, this is the sixth one. I think one of the most important ones. Sustainable success requires both bottom-up practices and top-down management support. I mean that it's not very easy to start to change something in the institutions without management support, but it doesn't always come from the top. You can, as employees, as team members, as engineers, you can start doing something from bottom up, and after some efforts, they will in the end see how it's going to benefit for themselves. So if they don't support you, it's better for you to do something from bottom up and show the benefits of, let's say, uh, applying DevOps principles. Okay. And our case study again, in sense of organizational level, what we did so far, we took a step forward for a flatter organization. We were a little more hierarchical, and so it was a problem in the back days. We made upper management reachable, it's important. Put some but not much challenge and stress on people. Let people fail under control, that we can afford to cover their failures. Put some metrics away, let's say for performance evaluation. For example, defect rejection ratio, as we are a consultancy company helping our clients to deliver better software, testing their software. It was one of the metrics that we use for the evaluation of our people, our staff. So I think it was one of the most important things from organizational perspective. Okay. And there is the second survey from organizational perspective. Again, the same, but another. You can use the QR code or the link. Okay. Sorry? Really? Works? Okay, cool. I felt a little nervous. I checked maybe 1,000 times. Okay. Has everyone got the link or QR? Okay. Let's go into the last part, the test technology. And there is another research conducted by ISTQB. In few days, you will see it on the internet. It's going to be popular, just published a few days ago. And the question was, which new technologies or subjects will be important to software testing industry in following 5 years? There are a lot of different answers. The first on the top is the security. Security is something very different from my expertise. It's a niche area, so I don't have anything to say about security. But there are some other areas, let's say the DevOps, continuous testing, big data, AI, Internet of Things, and machine learning. Yeah. Let's start with DevOps. Okay. You know, there is an elephant in the room, right? DevOps is like an elephant. If you touch the teeth of the elephant, you think that elephant is something sharp and thick, right? If you touch the tail of the elephant, you think that elephant is something hairy. If you touch the ears, you think that it's a floppy thing. And all are correct. It's also right for the DevOps. If you think it's a cultural evolution, yeah, it's right. If you think that it's about automation, it is right. If you think that it's about organizational change, yes, it is also right. Okay, this is from the World Quality Report, the last one. And it says as DevOps becomes more adapted in the organizations. Right now, it's used about 1/3 of the projects around the world. And according to trend, it's gonna be used in the future more. Yeah, the trend says that for us. But DevOps, from my point of view, it's not a goal. It's a process of continuous improvement that something we need to keep in our minds. It's something very important. And maybe you have seen this image before. First, there were classical testing, then it became agile testing. Right now, there is a chasm, the DevOps chasm, that we need to tackle. And after tackling the DevOps chasm, because it will make all the fancy stuff, the robotics, AI, you know, the IoT, machine learning, able to achieve, because all that fancy stuff requires real engineering agility, so you need to tackle down the DevOps. And in the DevOps, there is something I named continuous X, because there are a lot of continuouses, right? Continuous integration, continuous delivery, maybe continuous something. And from our perspective, there's continuous testing. And continuous testing means testing all the software for each code check-in or each change. And test automation in the heart of that everlasting continuous cycle. What are the benefits of continuous testing? It shifts left the testing cycle, extremely shorten the feedback cycles. It provides immediate regression analysis. It increases product quality, lowers technical debt, and maybe the most important one, decreases the business risks. Okay. By the way, on the right top, I put the time ranges from my point of view. When are they going to be important? DevOps in the near future, and the second one, the behavior-driven development, will be very, very important also in the near future. And BDD already here, I know. We are using the principles, we are using the technology, the tools, Cucumber, RSpec, SpecFlow, different ones. But it will be more important in the near future because it makes you able to model the user behavior from beginning to end. It provides pre-designing the product backend and writing testable software. It makes you able to get business stakeholders into test automation. It provides better, effective communication amongst stakeholders. It provides end-to-end readability and direct increased trust to software. And the most important one, from my point of view, provides an updated living documentation. As a consultant for 10 years, I have seen many different companies, more than 60, I think, and hundreds of projects. And in 95% of those projects, the documentation was not updated in the end of the life cycle. The only thing updated, living, was the code itself. So it's a real problem, and BDD can tackle that problem for you. And the IoT stuff, it started to be important and will be important also in the middle future. And the statistics say companies start to develop their own IoT methodologies, but there are some problems with the IoT applications devices. They send thousands of requests per second, per minute. And in the workshop days, 2 days ago, one of our friends came to us and said, how can we simulate, in name of performance testing, 70 million requests per second? I said, really? would you like to simulate 70 million requests per second? He said yes. This is, I think, shows you how much different the things, let's say, in the name of performance testing, and I believe it's very also different in other types or levels of performance testing. And there's big data and statistics. What about big data? What are we going to need to care? First, you need to define what is big data. Any exadata is big or named big data, should be named by that way. You can use 5V rule, the variety, or velocity, or volume, verification, and the value of the data to name it big data. It's better for you to learn basic statistics, statistic 101. At least you need to know the mean, median, 95%, or box plot, something like that. It might be better to you learn a statistical analysis tool, maybe the R language you might heard before. From testing perspective, consider adopting DB agility to your continuous lifecycle, because without the data, you are not really become agile, because you have a 100 terabyte database. If you can't create small enough test database for your instances, if you can't containerize it, it will be a big problem for you. And I think I don't have so much time and try to keep it fast. The AI stuff, it's a quite fancy and cool thing, but it will be here in middle and far future from our perspective. It requires some more time to become mature. And AI increases with the computational power. This is a fact. And there are also a lot of debates on the moral side, The car crashes a woman, and so who is responsible for that crash? There are some books, even in Turkish, written decades ago about the moral side of AI, who is going to be responsible for the acts of the AI, the developer, company, the community trains it, who is going to be responsible. It's so important. There are different approaches. During my undergraduate studies for thesis project, we used machine learning algorithms, the neural networks, for the soccer playing robots. Maybe you heard of them, for a competition, RoboCup. There are I learned at that time, two different type of algorithms in machine learning: unsupervised learning and supervised learning. Supervised learning means directing the machine with the act of a human. There are different algorithms, arbitrary neural networks, Bayesian algorithms, there are a lot of. And the applications are so diverse. But about testing perspective, I think you all wanna hear. From my insights, I think that it will be important in visual automation, visual regression analysis, and also for virtualization of the interfaces, how to decide to send responses for the mocked objects. It will be important also for defect taxonomy. And lastly, it will be important for the predictive behavior analysis of the customer. So you will be able to write or focus on the right areas of software to test about. And there's a foundation, maybe you heard before, AI testing, or they put AI testing into 3 different categories. AI testing is focused on areas where AI is being used to identify software issues. Testing AI is focused on methods for testing software where AI is the major technique. And the self-testing thing is about the context of AI, includes both leveraging of AI in self-systems. So, The last one, what we did in our company in name of case study. We challenged ourselves in name of technology, participated with the competitions, created a corporate training portal for anyone that want to develop himself, herself, give sponsorship for any paper acceptance, built a division for innovation, a separate division, put at least 10% effort to researches, and started using DevOps continuous BDD principles, even they are not charged for the customer. As we are a consultancy company, it's so important for us to charge the customer. But even we started to use that practices. And the last one, we have chosen an area of AI and started to work on it. It's called the robotic process automation. The abbreviation was RPA. Maybe you heard of it, and started the work study on the area. What can we do with RPA? So wrote a blog post about it. You can reach again through the QR and the link. It is published on our website, on our company blog. And the last survey, last questionnaire is again here. After that, we are going to finish. I think we don't have enough time to examine the results. So I'm going to be sharing on the internet. You can check when you want. And these will be the links that you make you able to reach the result of the surveys. We don't have time right here, but you can look at yourself. So these are the references, but I think we can skip. We don't have enough time. Okay. Thanks all for listening to me. It was a quite exciting and great experience to me. If you have any questions, I would like to try to answer.